to kind of start out, if I was in your guys' shoes, what would I want to hear from a speaker that would have helped me when I was, 7, 8, 10 years ago? And I remember when I first got to Utah Valley, I took a few of these classes, and there were some pretty big names. I think it was like the dude that runs Marriott Hotels, and I know, there's been several, you guys have obviously been listening to some very large speakers, CEOs of companies, and hopefully my message will be able to resonate a little bit where I graduated. I started in 2003 here, but I didn't graduate till 2010. Took the extended route. And, but I went on and off, and so hopefully I can say some things. I want to start out telling a story that happened my sophomore year while I was here at Utah Valley. I'm a huge sports fan, huge sports guy, always have been. When I was little, I always wanted to go to the big sporting events. And I remember, if anybody remembers, 2004, the Red Sox and Yankees were playing in the playoffs, in the championship series, and the winner of it was going to go to the World Series. And the Red Sox were kind of known as like always losing to the Yankees. There was like literally a curse that they had called the Curse of the Bambino. And the Yankees won the first 3 games of that playoff series. And me and my friends, we'd do this thing we called 30 parties for 30 days. We'd throw a party every night and watch the baseball games. When I say party, loose term, there's about 6 of us usually, but it was always fun. And in this particular case, the Red Sox had lost the first 3 games, and no team had ever come back from being down 3-0. And so, game 4, game 5, the Red Sox won, and we were sitting in my house. We had, a big group over watching game 6. You guys might remember Kurt Schilling had like a bloody sock for you baseball fans, and the Red Sox won the game, so it was tied at 3. And we're sitting there that night after the game. We're all excited, and my roommates and I were like, dude, like that game tomorrow is literally going to be the biggest game in 50 years. I mean, this is like if the Red Sox somehow win, being down 3-0. And I remember sitting there like, God, I would give anything to be at that game tomorrow. And as the night went on, I started surfing on the internet. I'm like, I'm going to see what flights cost, just out of curiosity, to New York. And JetBlue was doing this sale. It was like $150 round trip for a ticket. I'm like, okay, how much are tickets to the game? I might actually be able to do this in a couple $100. Long story short, 2 a.m, I get on the phone. I'm calling. There was a 5 o'clock a.m. flight to New York. I'm calling my buddies. None of them can go. I finally call a buddy that lives in Cincinnati. He's like, I'm in, dude. Let me ask my wife. I'll call you right back. So long story short, we land in New York at 11 o'clock in the morning, got tickets to this game. We go, the Red Sox win like crazy. The experience of being able to be there. And my buddy says, dude, well, do you got to go back? I was like, well, I got classes and stuff, but I mean, it's like oceanography and filmography and stuff. I don't know. I probably skip a few more days. So I ended up flying with him to Cincinnati, changed my flight. We went to Monday Night Football. I went to an Ohio State game. And then it was funny. It was like Monday or Tuesday, and I was like, the Red Sox were playing the Cardinals in game 3 the next morning or the next night. And I was like, how far is it from here to St. Louis on a bus? He's like, it's like 4 hours or something. So I'm like, screw it. So I called my buddy, a big Red Sox fan. I'm like, dude, meet me in St. Louis tomorrow. He's like, all right, let's do it. We're in. So we go to game 3. Red Sox win. They're now up 3-0. Everyone knows the Red Sox are going to win. Going to be a huge party because literally Red Sox fans had like the worst luck ever. Like picture getting a date with your crush of 20 years and you break out into hives. That was like the luck that the Red Sox were suffering from. And so all these Red Sox fans come flying in from all over the country, thousands of them. And you can't get a ticket to this game, game 4. And my brother had flown in for game 4 because he wanted to be there for it. And I just really wanted him to go to that game, but nobody would sell their tickets. And so I literally go up and down these alleyways outside of the stadium, and I'm yelling. I'm like, does anyone have a ticket? And this guy, I swear he was like an angel. This was not a real human, but this dirtiest old guy is like, you want to get into the game? I got away. I'm like, I'm in. I'm all ears. Talk to me. And he's like, my buddy works for Major League Baseball. We have a special ink you put on your hand. Give me $50. I got you in. And I'm like, I'm up for it. So we get in the game. So me and my brother for $50 are in this game. Red Sox win. Huge party. And I'm telling this story, by the way, I'm going to relate a couple main points of what's kind of helped me in my business and how this was really a turning point for me in my life. Red Sox win the game. I'm an Indians fan, by the way, okay? Speaking of bad luck. But I just wanted to be there to experience this history, this like huge event. Literally, people are like dying the next day. They no longer care to live. The Red Sox won; they can die now. Like it was crazy. Like crying adults everywhere, and people coming out of comas. I might have made that part up, but anyway. So we were in the game. Red Sox win. They're celebrating. There's about 100 people that are like. By the way, I feel like I'm in an ad for Apple or something. It's like all I can see is these little apples glowing all over the place. It's kind of funny. But I noticed they're letting people on the field. There's only about 100, 200 Red Sox fans, and they're letting people on the field that have this special wristband. And so I start thinking to myself, I need to get down there. I need to get one of these wristbands. And I'm right by the stadium. There's about 150 people between reporters, families, players on the field. And one of these kids standing next to me turns to the Red Sox president. He's like, Larry, hey, Larry. He's like, let me on the field. And I realize these two know each other. And so I throw my arm around the kid. I'm like, yeah, Larry, we came all the way out. Come on, get us on. And Larry Lucchino, Red Sox president, turns to the cop. He goes, those two, help them on. I'm getting helped on the field by a cop. Next thing I know, like 4 days earlier, I'm sitting in my class at UVU, and now I'm on the field. I don't even know what to do. I'm running around with the trophy, like Pedro Martinez is trying to get it from me. I'm throwing balls into the crowd, and I'm on Sports Center. I'm getting pictures with the coach. It was crazy. It was like the most surreal thing of all time. And it kind of hit me in that moment. I'm like, what just happened? Like, I just put that whole thing together in a matter of moments. And it was one of those life-changing experiences where I realized, like, if I want to do something in my life, I should just do it. Like, a lot of us, we sell ourselves short a lot of times. There's a couple main lessons I want to take out of this. The first lesson I want to take out of this is that nothing's going to happen if we don't go work for it, okay? So if you guys are taking notes or writing stuff down, write these. I'm going to give you a couple points here. First point, by the way, this is my name, Jimmy Rex. I'm with Keller Williams Realty. So lesson number one is nothing happens if we don't work for it, all right? And being in real estate, I've been a real estate agent for a little over 10 years now. Like Brad said, my team's consistently been in the top 2 or 3 teams in the entire state for a number of homes sold. And we worked super hard to get to that area. But it's interesting because new agents will try to join my team all the time. And we have a big problem because these new agents will come on and they see the end result. They see what me and a few members of my team are doing, and they want immediately to be in that spot. They want to immediately be closing several deals a month and have clients all the time, calling them, working with these clients. And they don't see all the work that we put in at the beginning. And so they get frustrated because when I started in real estate, I literally would wake up and every morning at 7 o'clock, I was in my office role-playing what to say with another agent for an hour. And then I'd spend the next 3 hours making cold calls to for sale by owners. I did it every single day for 4 or 5 years. And these new agents will come in and it's like they don't believe me. I tell them this is what they need to do, and they just don't want to do it. Because again, they want to see the end result. They want to be there already, and they're not willing to put in that hard work. And so, it's the challenge that I always say to people is, especially it seems like nowadays a lot of younger and younger generations, they just they're all about like the whole what can we get for free, what can you give us, what are you going to do for me? And I just learned that there's never a bad situation to be in if you know how to work, because you can work yourself out of any hole you're ever in. No matter how bad something gets, if you really put your head down and go to work, you'll work your way out of it. And that's a principle that I strongly believe in. I want to tell a story. A few years ago in the market, so the real estate market, I got in 05, 06, and the market was crazy. I mean, we were selling homes. We'd never even met the clients, never seen the homes. I kid you not. Checks were showing up. It was like the Wild West. And then all of a sudden, August 11th, 2011, market collapses, right? For those that, was anybody a homeowner at that time or anybody in real estate at that time? So several people. Essentially what happened over the next year, real estate prices dropped by about 20 to 30%. And so anyone I was going to sell a home to, I had to tell them, I hope you're going to live here for 5 or 6 years because your home's going to depreciate 20% before it goes back up. And anybody looking to sell their home usually was trying to sell it for about 15 to 20% more than what it was worth. So this is the situation that we were in at that time. And a lot of developers lost everything. Developers essentially take a lot of risk on buying land, and then they have to get it developed out. They have to get all the improvements and everything else. It's a process of 9 to 12 months. So if you're a builder, to stay in business, you've got to be buying dirt all the time. Well, prices had doubled on dirt. So a lot of these developers, when the market tanked, were literally sitting where they just lost everything. A lot of developers lost everything they had. Some were very successful developers. And one in particular, it was a dad of a friend of mine. He'd been a developer for 15, 20 years. The guy had been a multimillionaire several times over. But when it collapsed, he lost everything. And there was nobody was building, so you couldn't just build. He couldn't work his way out of it in that industry. So he decided he was going to join real estate. My buddy called me and he said, hey, my dad wants to get into real estate. Would you take him under your wing a little bit and just kind of teach him what it is he needs to do to get started? And I said, yeah, no problem. Have him come down, shadow me for a day or two, and let's kind of see how it goes. And so I had this guy, he came in, and I had him meet me in my office, 8 o'clock, and we started calling for sell-by owners. And I had one of those days where I was just on fire. I mean, every person I called, you gotta understand, for sell-by owners aren't very nice usually. They don't want to talk to you. There's a reason they're not hiring an agent. They don't like them or whatever usually. And so in this particular case, though, I think I called probably 15 people, and 2 of them gave me a really good appointment to come out and sell their house. Which was not typical. That was a good day. But this guy was watching me, and you got to keep in mind, this guy had done really well. Just got into real estate, though, and he didn't know that I'd been put on stages in front of 4,000 people, and people had watched me call for sell-by owners. This was like my gig. This was my thing. I had done pretty much more than anybody was call for sell-by owners. So when he was watching me, he turns to me, and he says, man, just think, if you're this good at it, just imagine how good I'm going to be at it. And I... not offended, whatever. I was like, wow, this is going to be awesome how this plays out. And the next day, met me in the office. I gave him his list of for sale by owners to call. I said, why don't you go call for an hour, come back, and then we'll discuss kind of how it went. We'll talk about it, any objections you got or whatever. And so this guy went, and he called for an hour. 50-year-old guy. This guy literally, he was a very well-known, prominent builder in the area. Comes back after an hour. And he's looking at me. We're sitting in my office, and my business partner's sitting next to me here. And he says, he's like, that's the worst hour of my entire life. Like, they were so rude to me. I can't believe they talked to me that way. And I kind of was chuckling to myself because I just said, I knew it. This is not easy work calling these. And I could tell he's just like, man, he goes, I need a drink. I'll be back. But he took all of his stuff with him. I turned to my partner. I said, he's never coming back. He's like, yeah, right. I said, dude, he's never coming back. And never saw the guy again. So that was the end of his experiment calling these. And it just really hit me and reminded me of kind of the importance of putting your ego aside and not trying to build something too big, too fast, where you're willing to put in the work, especially as you guys are getting started in the real world of building a business. Most entrepreneurs and most business people get in trouble when they just get frustrated that something's not happening quick enough. I have a buddy that he owns a sunglasses company, and they're doing really well. They'll have over $1 million in sales this year. I think it's their second or third year. And he said, the thing I've noticed my friends that are successful is they simply just stuck with whatever they were doing for 5, 6, 10 years. You guys are well into your careers now, and you're doing well at it. So you want to make sure you don't get too frustrated too fast and understand that there's some hard work that goes into that. I'm going to tell a story real quick of kind of where an experience I had that when I was younger, didn't come from money. My dad drove a truck, but we had a lot of good stuff going on. I had a happy childhood, but when I was little, baseball to me, again, was everything. All I cared about was playing baseball. Everything baseball was so important to me. And when I was 12, we moved from Taylorsville to Murray. And Taylorsville was like known as the best. They won it all every year. So I moved in thinking I was pretty cool, and I quit working hard. And when I was 12, I still, made the all-star team, was one of the better players. When I was 13, same thing. And when I was 14, all of a sudden, the field got bigger. People started getting bigger. And I was kind of a late bloomer, I guess you could say. And I had a horrible year. Did not play well baseball that year. And this is kind of an experience that helped change my life. And I'm going to share it with you guys because it's something that I draw upon to help me understand and remember to be able to work hard. And what happened was basically at the end of the year, every year there's a big ceremony. It's kind of like this. The stands goes up like this, and it overlooks the baseball field. So they're standing in front of you, basically the league president and the coach of the all-star team. So they give the trophies for first place, second place, MVP of the league or whatever, and then they call out the all-star team. And me and my buddies every year we'd sit together. So we're probably, if this is the audience. And you got to keep in mind, it's everyone's parents are there, their families are there. I think my grandma was there, my parents, sister, brother, whatever. And we're all sitting, like 16 of us over here, off to the right, all hanging out as buddies, 14-year-olds. And they start calling the all-star team. And they call 7 or 8 of them. All of a sudden, I notice there's like 5 of us left, 6 of us left, and there's one less trophy than us sitting there. And in my mind, I was an all-star. I'd always been an all-star. I was going to be on the team. But as they called the next 2 people, I looked who was still sitting there, and they were for sure going to make the team. And it hit me that I was not. And you got to picture this, as they called these last 3 people, literally come from over here. I literally was sitting by myself, the only one not called as a 14-year-old kid. All my friends called up to be all-stars. My family there, I just picture a million eyes on me. I didn't know what to do. I was just sad. I just started crying. And I just remember how terrible I felt. And I knew it. I wasn't mad at the coach. I wasn't mad at the league president. I knew I hadn't worked hard enough. I'm grateful I at least had the self-awareness to realize that that was my fault. But as I sat there, to this day, it was the worst I've ever felt in my entire life. All my friends had left by myself, parents disappointed, or at least felt they were. You're a 14-year-old kid, you're already insecure. And I made a promise to myself right in that moment. I said, I will never feel like this again because I didn't work hard enough. And I drew upon that all the time, like in my business and my life. I said, I'd never want to feel like this again. It was the worst feeling I've ever had. I said, I refuse to ever feel like this again. I'll never be outworked. And so I did. I applied myself and worked hard. I ended up having a good high school baseball career and everything else. And I've applied that in my business as well. So I tell that story to relate. You guys never want to be put in a position where you're going to be cut, right, from a job, or you're going to be passed over for an opportunity because you didn't work hard enough. So I want to emphasize that principle. The first principle is you've got to put yourself in a position through your hard work where people see that. Okay, I mean, if you work hard enough, it doesn't matter what you do. You literally could be the bagger in the grocery store, but if you're the best damn bagger anyone's ever seen, somebody's going to notice, and they're going to give you a better job. And that's the importance of working hard, because people know. You know when somebody's sandbagging it, and you know when somebody can work hard. And opportunity, luck, the old saying is that luck is simply when opportunity finds hard work, or whatever it goes. Not much for a quoter, but you guys know the point. Second point that I wanted to make to you guys from that story. So again, first lesson, nothing happens if we don't work for it. Second point is to dream big, all right? It's funny because the saying says, most people way overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but they way underestimate what they can do in 5. And part of this goes back again to the results, right? We want to see results. We want immediate gratification. We want to be able to know that what we're doing is working. A professor here at UVU once said to me, it's one of my favorite sayings, is he said, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you try to do? And I'm kind of a smart aleck. When he said it to me, I said, well, I'd try to fail. There's some genius in that if you think about it, okay? But the point is really what's holding you back? What is out there? What is it that you would do if you knew you couldn't fail? Most people make the mistake in life if they don't realize what they could have had or what they could have done had they just dreamed bigger or thought bigger about their lives. I love meeting people that are doing big things. I have a buddy recently that came to me a year ago. He's making movies, and the dude's doing it. And I love when my friends are doing cool things. He came to me, and any of you guys ever seen the movie The Saratov Approach? Good movie, right? I mean, he ended up making a lot of money on the movie. Well, we went to an Angels game last summer, and I said, what's your next movie, dude? And I want to support you any way I can. And he said, well, it's actually a movie called Girls Camp. And he says, it's a movie about a bunch of girls that go to girls camp. He kind of picks a niche audience because he can keep the budget low and still make a lot of money off of it. And he told me the script, and I really liked it. It's told from the story of a Catholic girl, not an LDS girl, and it's kind of the funniness of an outsider, like seeing this, like, what is with these people? And it's just funny. They don't, she doesn't convert at the end or anything like that. It just kind of shows that interaction of the movie. And I said, dude, I want to support you any way I can. He said, well, I'm having trouble getting the funding for the movie. And I said, I like this, dude. I like supporting my buddies when they do cool stuff. I said, let me make some phone calls. And so we put together the money, then like 2 or 3 days to make the movie. Called a few friends of mine. Me and a few of them invested in this movie. And currently it's out of the theaters right now, but it's called Once I Was a Beehive. Has anybody seen it by chance? few people, okay. But they've already made our money back on the movie, and he's already getting approached by these big producers and directors for making the next movie. And I just love watching him go, this guy, McLean Nelson's his name. He's from here, from Timpview, and he's just doing something. He's doing something big. I got another buddy that just sold his company, had a company out of St. George. It was like a converter with gasoline, natural gas with diesel engines, some screwy thing, and he sold the company for $65 million. And I was like, dude, you're done. Like, you can retire and do whatever you want. He's like, oh, no. My next project's the big one. And he threw all of his money into another project. And I begged him. I'm like, dude, let me invest with you. I'll do anything I can to invest in this project. And I had to sell several investment properties I owned to get enough money of how much I needed to invest with him. But he let me make a very small investment in his next company. And again, I just believe in my friends. I love when people are going big. They're doing big things. And enough people, there's enough evidence out there. Look around you. Like every building you see, every company you buy something from, somebody thought big enough to make that product, right? And that's the mistake we make, is thinking that we can't do these big things. It's like most companies do work if you simply just keep at it and keep doing it. I remember, hearing the story about Brad Pitt when he got to Hollywood. He was actually dressed up like a chicken on the corner for a chicken fast food place. It took him 7 years to get a role where he had a speaking part. Brad Pitt is like the best looking dude ever. I would. I'm not, but I would if I was. I'm just saying, the dude's good looking. And it took him 7 years to get a role, but the guy stuck with it, and look what he's become, right? And there's so many stories out there. So there's so much evidence that if we just stick to it and really put our effort towards it, there's no reason all of us can't have something like that big. I want to actually do a quick little thing with you guys. I want you to write down or type into your computers, whatever, what's something in your life you've always wanted to do but still haven't done it. So everybody write down something real quick. Take just 30 seconds here. Something you've always wanted to do, either a business you've wanted to have, a girl you wanted to talk to, I don't know, whatever, like a trip you wanted to go on. What's something you've always wanted to have, but you haven't done it? And then the next question I want you to write down is why. I want you to write down the reasons underneath that you haven't done it. There's reasons you haven't done it. If you haven't done it yet, what are the reasons? You don't have enough money, you don't have enough time, your family won't support it. What is it? Like, everybody has their reasons why, okay? And that's your story. What you just wrote down is your story of why you're not living the life that you could to the fullest. And I've got a pair of really cool UVU sweats I just bought at the bookstore. If somebody will share with me yours real quick, I'll give you these pair of pants. If they don't fit or you don't like them or whatever, you just don't wear sweats. I don't know. You can take them back. I just bought them right downstairs. But somebody want to share with me yours? Yeah, right here. Go ahead. Go skydiving. Awesome. Why haven't you done it? You're terrified of heights. Okay. When? If you call me within the next month and tell me you're going skydiving, I'll pay for it. Yeah. Because I want you to live your dream. Cool? All right. I'll give you my number at the end. You're going skydiving, all right? There you go. You have to wear those sweats when you go, though. All right. Perfect. All right, awesome. So the third thing I want to get at, and guys, I do that for a reason. I want you guys to realize how easy it is to live our dreams. I mean, I'm not up here like a blowing smoke. I literally, if I hear something I want to do, I just go do it. I don't know, a few weeks ago, I wanted to go to the Nebraska BYU game, but I was going to Taylor Swift the night before with my nieces, and I was going to Lake Powell the day after, and there was not a single flight that got in. But I was hell-bent on going to this. I kind of started letting people know, and a buddy of mine called me, and he goes, dude, I've actually rented a private jet. I got a seat for you if you want to go. We're flying Saturday morning. We're flying back Saturday night. I was at the game, best game we've had in 5 years, and I was there sitting there watching the whole thing. So I just really, when you guys want to do something, I just want to emphasize that this is your only life. Do it. Just kill it. Have as much fun as you can and do awesome things. Quit being afraid of doing cool stuff. This is your life. When you die, that's it. That's your day. It's done. You don't, even if you believe in the ever after or whatever, everything else, you only had one life where you could screw everything up, right? I mean, it's however you believe it, I guess. But the point is go for it. Do cool stuff. Do awesome things. All right. And then I want you to ask yourself, who would benefit by it if I did do it? Whatever you wrote down, right? Who would be the beneficiary of these things if you actually went and did them? Who would benefit from it? Think about that one for a minute. A lot of times we don't do things for ourselves because we're content, right? We're cool with just going home and watching Netflix. But who's suffering when you don't do that dream? Is your family life worse because you're not living the adventurous life you want, or are you having money problems that you know you need to solve, but you're just not willing to go for it? So just kind of think about that for a second. The third lesson I want to talk about here is you have to surround yourself with the right people, okay? There's a type of crab, some of you maybe have heard this story. If you put it in a bucket, it'll crawl out. But if you put several crabs in the bucket with it, they'll always pull each other back in. You guys heard that story before, okay? It's because a lot of people that have negative lives, a lot of people aren't living up to their potential, and they get intimidated, they get scared when other people are. They don't want to be left behind. We kind of feel ourselves doing this sometimes, right? And that's why it's so important to cut negative people out of your life and surround yourself with the best people. We've all heard the principle, you're going to become the product of the 5 people you surround yourself the most with. Well, there's a lot of truth to that. If you look at the top 5 people you spend your most time talking with or spending your time with, whatever, you're going to be the product of those 5 people. So I really encourage you guys to think hard about who you're surrounding yourself with. I've built my entire business on networking. So for the first 4 or 5 years, like I said, when I was in, I would just call all the time. Just meeting. I didn't know anybody. I had to meet people, so I was just calling people all the time, calling. And in 2010, I'd hired a real estate coach when I first got in the business, and I've had different coaches over the years. In 2010, my coach said, we need to change your business model. We need to start focusing on putting the attention on the people you know. And the entire principle revolves around Zig Ziglar. He's a famous motivational speaker, died a few years ago, but he said, if you want to get everything you want in this life, just help a lot of other people get what they want, okay? You guys have probably heard that before as well. These are very common sayings. There's a reason they're common, because they're really freaking good, okay? But I kind of just took that approach. Like, everybody you meet needs something, right? And I've seen so many real estate agents have the worst marketing. They go out. Has anybody ever gotten like a recipe card from a realtor or seen their face on a billboard or a side of a bus? Like, I think in the history of people, nobody has ever seen a realtor's face on the side of a bus and been like, that's my guy. But we do it because we have egos and we want people to see us and be like, we're awesome, look at us, right? And my coach said, you need to focus on the people you already know and just spoil the crap out of them. Just give them so much benefit and just help their lives so much that they can't help but use you as their real estate agent and refer you to all their friends. And a couple examples of that. For example, so I started throwing a lot of parties. I throw a real estate party once a month for my clients. And we'll either like rent out the theater for the first run of the new movie or something. We'll always do the premiere, or we'll, like for July 4th, we did a huge fireworks show in American Fork. It's like the largest private fireworks show in Utah. And anyway, long story short, we just do all these things that benefit people. It's very hard not to like somebody when they keep doing cool things for you or they keep liking you. Have you ever like wanted to hate someone, but they're so nice to you, you like can't hate them anymore? You're like, dang it, this guy. Like, I had a dude, I hated him. Like, just didn't like him. Didn't like what he stood for, didn't like who he was. And he just kept doing something. And finally, one day, I actually gave a speech to a group, and I didn't record it. And I love speaking. It's what I do it for work and everything else. And it was funny because I got home that day, and I was like, man, I really wish I'd recorded that speech. And this dude, like an hour later, emails me. He's like, hey, started recording your speech. Thought you might like it. Here's a copy of it. And he sent me the speech. And I'm like, okay, we're friends. I get it. We're going to be on the same page here. So that's kind of the whole point of, like, people all the time talk about networking, right? We've all been to networking events. There's nothing worse. Most of us get social anxiety. I remember I did all the time because either people are sleazy. Who's here's ran into the business card guy, right? Is there anything worse than the guy that as soon as you meet him gives you a business card? There's one thing worse. The guy that gives you like 10 of them, right? He's like, tell your friends too. I'm like, I'm not even keeping you one, dude. I'm not going to pass them out to my friends. Okay, but this guy's out there. We see him all the time. Like, at best, I'm taking a picture of it, and I'm going to forward it to my secretary to put into the system, but that's about all I'm going with your business card. But when you meet people, you got to come from an approach where you legitimately put your own ego aside and quit thinking, what can I get from this person? Because nothing is easier to, like, sense than somebody coming from a position of trying to get something, okay? People are smart. And when you do that, they know what you're doing. But if you come from you ever met somebody that as soon as you met him, you're like, dang, that guy was really interested. Like, I really think I like that guy. And you don't even know why, right? But they come from a place where they're just trying to help you. And before you know it, you'll do anything for that person. And I want to emphasize that is the way to network and to meet the right kind of people. Because if you want to meet whoever the right people are for you in your life, whoever those people are, if you want to meet the right people, the key is to become the kind of person that they want to meet. Okay? It's a lot easier to meet people when they're coming to you than you trying to go to them and beg. So become the kind of person they want to meet, and you'll meet those kind of people. Make sense? Because of time, I'm going to skip a few things here, but I'm going to tell one other quick story. Another thing about networking and building relationships, I like to call it building relationships because networking just sounds like what you do with computers. It's like, oh, I'm a heck of a networker. I have 4,000 Twitter followers. Like, none of them know who you are. But real true building relationships, I try to get a lunch every day with somebody. I try to take at least one person to lunch every single day. I try to make at least 10 contacts every day to my friends when I'm driving and just talk to them and see what's going on. Thankfully, I'm in a business where that's kind of my job is to just stay in touch with as many people as I can. But it's really been the key is building these relationships and getting people to go out of their way to try to introduce you to other people. I have a friend, he was actually one of the owners of the Keller Williams office when we opened it back in 2007. We opened up the Keller Williams franchise here in Utah County, and a lot of things went bad. We'll just say that. We weren't prepared. The market turned, and he'd made some investments in the company's name that none of us knew about. And he was a developer as well. He ended up losing all of his money. He lost all the money from the company, had some really bad contracts. Anyway, he got forced out of the company. We got sued as a company. We lost, I think it was a $350,000 lawsuit, to give you an idea, in the time of the worst market. We were basically hemorrhaging to stay alive for about 4 years as a company because of all this. And every other person in the office, we had 120 agents, I think, in our office. Everybody else threw this guy under the bus. The other owners threw him under the bus, all the agents. Everyone cut ties with this guy completely. And I liked the guy. He was a friend of mine, and I decided I'd go out of my way to try to help him out. And so I stayed in contact with him. He ended up, from being a real estate mogul, the guy was he was one of the top agents in the state, top developer. He was bouncing a bar out in Tooele, is what he had started doing as opposed to where he'd been, as this real estate kind of kingpin. And I called him up. I said, dude, you're done bouncing bars. Come work for me. We're going to start flipping houses again. I want you to kind of head it up. So I gave this guy a job. He was kind of my guy that would go to the auctions every day, and he'd run all the numbers. He'd go break into the homes to make sure they were okay. You have to do that. Are we still recording? He's the one that would get in the houses with the key and all that kind of stuff. And so, anyway, and about a year went by, and even then, he left my team, and he said, hey, I'm going to actually do this on my own. I can make a lot more money now. After I taught him how to do it, got him on my team, and he went and did it on his own. I was like, cool, whatever. And I still stayed in contact with him, still befriended this guy. And it was funny because my business partner was like, dude, he's like, do you give everybody 45 chances? And I just kind of chuckle, And fast forward 2 years ago, this guy had made a contact with a company called American Homes for Rent. It was a giant real estate investment trust out of Malibu, California. And they were moving to Utah, and they wanted to buy 1,000 houses. And they needed some agents to help them. And to give you an idea, an average house you're selling for about $200 to $250. You get about a 3% commission on each one, so you can do the math on that. And this guy set this deal up for us to represent this company, and we ended up working with them. We only worked with them for probably about 3-4 months, but we were selling these guys on average 30 to 35 homes per month for a 3 or 4 month period. If we could have kept it going for like 8 months, I was like, me and my partner were like doing the math, like, dude, we can retire in like a year. It only went for 3 or 4 months, so bought a houseboat and a new car. But you gotta have fun, right? I've been over that part. In fact, the houseboat thing, actually, there's more to it than that. When I was little, my friends, we were poor. I mean, Dad drove a truck, and all my friends would come back, and they'd always talk about their stupid Lake Powell trip with their stupid houseboats. And I just remember thinking, like, one day I'm going to own a houseboat. Screw them. And I'm going to throw the best damn Lake Powell trip they've ever heard of. And anyway, we did. So I know I draw back on things from when I was like 10. It's kind of ridiculous. But sometimes you just got to dig into the well a little bit, They always say the best revenge is massive success. Write that down if you want to. It's true, though. Like, have you ever, like, gotten in a fight with someone or, like, hated someone, all of a sudden they're, like, hella good at what they're doing? You're like, suck. Then you try to meet them and become friends again. And anyway. All right, I've got a few more minutes here, and then I'm going to take a few questions if you guys have any questions for me. A couple other points I wanted to make, though. Number one, super important, hire a mentor or a coach. When I first got into real estate, I went into my office the first day, and I told my broker, I was like, hey, I'm excited, I'm ready to do this. I said, what do I do? And he's like, I don't know, go call people. And I was like, who do I call? He's like, I don't know, just go call people. And I was like, this is the worst. My first 6 months, I think I sold 9 houses just out of sheer hustle. I was just working harder than anybody else, but I wasn't really doing very well. And I hired a real estate coach. He was known as one of the best coaches in the country. And by the end of the year, I closed the year with 60 homes sold. In that last 6 months, I went from, 9, I sold another 51 houses and just kind of went from there. I have a life coach, I have a nutritionist, I have, a gym coach, a trainer. I just strongly believe in people are out there. You don't have to reinvent the wheel on a lot of this stuff. It's out there. Hire a great coach. The most expensive advice you'll ever get is usually free. I don't know if you guys have heard that before. Very true. But yeah, I love coaching. I love helping other people, other real estate agents. I coach agents specifically. Sorry, this is not an audition for a job. But I love doing it because I see their businesses go, and I know what it's done for my business. So it's very important to always hire a coach, hire a mentor when you get going, or find one at least, somebody that will take you under their wing. And same principle, right? Do everything you can for that person and be patient. I've had a few people say this, like, hey, I want to work with you. I want to work for free. I just want to learn from you. I'm like, great. Come do it. And literally within a week or two, they quit because they're like, I need to get a job to pay the bills. And so set yourself up in a situation that you're going to win, right? If you're going to do it for free, make sure you have the means to do it or a second job or something, but find somebody you can mentor from. I mean, it's been done by somebody else, so don't try to reinvent the wheel. Most of the great companies in the world were basically somebody took an idea, tweaked it, and made it better, right? The next thing I like to say is to read a lot of books, okay? This year I'm on pace to read, I think, 75, 80 books. Love to read books. I always joke that I got my degree from UVU, but I got my education in my car, listening to audio, different books like that. And I'll make a deal with you guys, too. I'm going to give you my information here in a sec. If you guys send me an email with your name, phone number and email will be on there, obviously, then I'll send you one of my 5 favorite books. How's that sound? Good. You have to read it, though. Don't hit me up unless you're going to read it, okay? Because I'm a strong believer in the basically bettering ourselves in every aspect of life. There's nothing sadder than somebody who hasn't changed in 10 years, right? Somebody who hasn't tried to better themselves or had the self-awareness to see issues they have and tried to work on them. So if any of you guys want, I'll give you a list of my 5 favorite books. I'll send one of them to you. Just send me your information on an email, and I'll get that out to you. The next thing I want us is to make sure if you're starting a business, how many of you guys own your own business or planning to start within the next few years? About half the class. So one of the key things that I've learned is to hire talented people and pay them well, okay? If you have to, hire less people and just get talented people. It's funny, you can always tell the economy is doing better when it's harder to find good work, right? Like good help. I can always tell my restaurant, whoever my waiter is. Like when the market was in the tank, I had the best waiters ever. I'm like, these guys are so good, they should have a better job. And then the market got better, and they did. They got better jobs. So you can always tell, if you want to know if the economy is good or bad, go to a restaurant, look at your server, and see how they're doing. If they're struggling a lot, the economy's fine. But really, though, go out there, hire talented people. Life is really easy when you have strong people surrounding you. The reason I'm able to live the way that I do, I only work about 35 to 40 hours a week, take off pretty much every weekend. This weekend, I'm flying to UCLA for the football game. Next weekend, I'm flying to Kansas City to watch my baseball team play on Friday. I'm flying from there to Michigan to watch the games up there. Just every weekend I'm able to leave and go do something cool like that. I was in Lake Powell last week. I went to Nebraska week before that. It's just every week you can do things if you have the right people in place to run your business for you. And so the key to my business has been this very principle, hiring very talented, very capable people and paying them well. So I don't have to worry about anybody stealing my people because no one will pay them what I am anyway. But they're worth every dime because they allow me to live that life that I want to live. And that brings me up to my last point. When it comes to working, guys, building businesses, it's a lot of fun. I love looking back at the grind of some of the things I did. It's just crazy. So many mistakes and so many stupid things that I did. So much fun, though, when you're young and you're just loving learning and doing it. But then in life in general, just have fun. Go back to that point, Be smart about it, but go have a lot of fun. This is your life. Don't wait till that day when you can do things. You can do things now. Figure out how and go do them. Put a little bit extra work in and go live the life you've always wanted to. If you want to go do something extravagant, go do it. If your wife wants to do it, quit being a jerk. Go do it. If your husband wants to do it, ladies, man up, all right? But I'm a strong believer in that. I love to just live life to the fullest. Hopefully you guys have taken something out of this today. I'll open it up for questions in a sec, but here's my contact information. Any of you guys, can you guys read that okay? Okay, if not, come up after and just take a picture on your phone or something. But again, my name is Jimmy Rex. My email's easy, jimmyrex@kw.com. My phone number right here. Again, send me an email with your information, and then I'll send you back a list of 5 books, and then you can pick which one you want, and then we'll get you a book out, okay? That's my time. We got, I think, about 5 minutes for questions. If anybody has any burning questions they want to ask me, just raise your hand and go ahead. Yeah. How were you not destroyed by the housing crisis? How did you survive? Yeah, so that was 2008 was the hardest year of my life. In 2007, I'd sold 98 houses, my second year as a realtor, and I thought I was a big deal. I thought I was pretty awesome. The market tanked, and I couldn't sell anything. And frankly, that year, I listed 189 people's houses that didn't sell. Think about that. 189 families I met with, convinced them I was their best chance of selling their house, and it didn't sell. I think I sold like 31 houses that year, I was still number 1 in my company, but I took about a third home that year of my pay that I had taken the year before. But it was just plowed through it. I just worked my way through it. That's why I say, after going through that housing bubble of 2008, I'm not afraid of anything. It was awful. Everybody, literally divorces happening across the kitchen table from you as you're sitting there meeting with people. Wives yelling at husbands, I told you not to buy this, just crazy stuff. But just working through it, just worked harder. And I worked twice as hard that year as probably any other year and sold a third as many homes. But sold enough to survive and get through it. Yeah, right here. So I had to get real slim on my budget, right? When I first got into real estate, I'd never kept a budget. I'd never done my accounting or anything. And it was weird because I was making a lot of money, but I didn't know I was losing it all. I didn't really have much money. I'd made a few investments that were really bad. By the way, don't invest in stuff you don't know, okay? Just throw that out there. Or people you don't know, at least. I might or might not own a dental clinic somewhere in Arizona that might or might not exist. I don't know. But the point is I had to get really trim. I literally took my budget down to a third of what it had been. Thankfully, my business partner, he was kind of at the time more of an assistant role, but kind of like my vice president of operations. He went back to school, started working part-time, so I could pay him half, but he was getting twice as much done in the half the time he was working. We just really had to kick back on everything. It's crazy when you first get into real estate. I wanted to be, in 2 years, I wanted to be where most realtors were in 20, and so I was buying all these crazy marketing schemes, and everyone comes at you, and then you're like, if I sell one house this year, it pays for it, but really it's $500 more a month here and $1,000 here, and next thing you know, you're broke. And so just really had to start watching the budget. That's something that I would highly, especially in new businesses, go as slim as you can. It was a mistake that I made for several years until I finally figured it out. I actually had to set up a savings account in my business partner's name that I can't touch the money, and 15% of every check goes into that account now. Before I ever see it, I literally can't get the money. If I die, it's his. So that was the only way I could keep from spending all my money. Sounds ridiculous, it is. Yeah. Who else? Got time for probably one more. Yeah, go ahead.
So you said that you love reading a lot of books. How do you have time to do all that work and all the other things in your life?
So you just make time for it, right? I read a lot when I travel, so I'm always on planes and stuff, read a lot on planes. I love to read, half hour in the morning or an hour at night. When I'm at the gym, I go to the gym every day, or I'm driving in my car every day. I'm either on the phone or I'm listening to audiobooks. Audiobooks are awesome. Audible.com, you can go faster or slower. You can pause it. It's just awesome stuff. And it's a really good way to get some really a lot of books, information quickly. But you just kind of got to make time for it. And then Audible is a really, listening to them is a really good way to do it. All right, I think we're out of time. Thank you, guys.